back everybody to another video here on the channel. Well, as you all know, we're taking a look at the top Transformers of 2025, and some of these ones that I've picked up I really find interesting because we have everything here. I believe I wrote it down. We have Beast Wars, Studio Series, G1, Armada, Universe, R.I.D, Neo, Haslab, so it's all on here. And we're going to start off with actually an honorable mention. Beast Wars, Neo, Megatron. He's appeared a couple times on the channel already, and I wanted to shoot this guy's own video, but I think that pretty much he kind of served whatever purpose that would do, being the point of reference for Galvatron. So in my head, he's already done. However, this guy, the reason he's an honorable mention is because he was he was quite a challenge to piecemeal together. I mean, because with this guy having so many parts and pieces as he does, and being just, it's a lot, okay? So, I mean, once you get it all together, it's a very rewarding experience. But the reason he's an honorable mention is not only was he difficult to piecemeal together, is because my only other encounter with a Megatron was actually that of the Legacy United version. So I was really spoiled to a guy that had all the bells and whistles that a Megatron should have. So when I came back to this, it's cool for me to have the original now, but I was a little bit disappointed because his articulation, like I said, I was already spoiled by the better version. So, you know, it's just those two factors that I couldn't put him as an official number on the list, but he's definitely still worthy of inclusion. So that's why this guy is in the spot that he is. And our number 10 spot comes to this guy right here, the original 2001 R.I.D. Skybite. Now, I think the thing that is so in your face about this version of Skybite is that this reuse of Cybershark's mold, which a lot of people don't know, this guy is the successor to Cybershark. Cybershark came first. So, I have to put that out there because Cybershark's one of my homeboys. But this is probably the more recognizable use of the mold because the thing that's in your face is the deco. Everything on this guy's robot mode is completely stellar. I mean, even his shark mode, some of the details that Cybershark missed, they went to the effort and picked out every little detail, even adding little chrome bits here and there. Plus the fact of how you can use his rotor tail in shark mode as kind of like a submarine propeller. That's really kind of cool. And the other thing that I completely dig about this guy is the fact that he looks really good with all of the other bad guys from his own series. But they did it in a way that it kind of worked. And this boy is just one example of the awesome figures that came out during that line. So again, like I said, he always will be second place in my heart to Cybershark, but let's not neglect the fact that Skybite is an awesome character, much beloved by many people, so I figured it was only appropriate that we give him the number 10 spot on this list. And our number 9 spot goes to our guy here, Pterosaur, but more specifically the Armada version of Pterosaur with his Minicon Ironhide. And yes, guys, this was during an era that they just slapped whatever name they need to trademark on whichever character. It did not matter. So I know in G1 Ironhide is a big deal, but in Armada he was nothing more than a character that is a Minicon that didn't even appear in the show. Obviously the focus of these two bots is Pterosaur, because what they did is they took his Transmetal mold and they went ahead and added some of the wild deco that you would find on all of the Transmetal recolors. He's one of 5 that they did. Matter of fact, another person on this list is another one of those Transmetal recolors. One of the weird things is that on these Armada recolors, as opposed to the original releases of the Transmetals, they would actually tampograph their names on these guys in Beast Wars. Well, for the Armada repaints, they didn't do that. This guy is the exception because if you can see over here on his wing, they left the Pterosaur name on there, which is kind of odd, to be honest. But little touches like the chrome bits around the wings, the little kind of shiny bits around the bird beak over here. This guy, I'm surprised that a lot of that stuff that the other guys didn't even get survived on this. So I was like, was he just a last minute addition? They didn't bother to modify it that much. But anyway, I love a character that like is orange, a guy that's very winged, so it should be no surprise this guy landed on there. And the chance to kind of inject a little bit of Beast Wars into the Armada lore, I'm totally digging that. So I went ahead and collected all the Transmetal recolors this year, but out of all of them, like I said, just this guy and the one other that's on the list were the ones that stood out the most to me. For number 8 on our list, it ended up being the Takara version of Transmetal Rhinox. Now, this guy, if you'd seen it like a short I had posted, this was the only one that I was missing out of all of the Rhinox molds. I had collected all of the initial Transmetal runs. I even had the Armada reuse of the mold. The only one that I was missing was this one right here. Now, what makes him different compared to all the others is you can kind of see what they said it's on the wiki is gold, but like in person it appears more of a rose gold vac metal that they did. Along with the bits you can see on the sides that they're actually red, whereas a lot of the American releases, if not all of them, had blue. And one of the things with the Japanese versions was they didn't put their names on there. They would actually put Cybertron, which in Japanese continuity, Cybertron was the synonym that they used instead of Maximal, like the American cartoon did. So that's why he has Cybertron on his right arm instead of Rhinox. So I don't know if Rhinox is actually more of a holy grail thing that I was hunting. It was just one of those things that I'm like, okay, never get one of those. And then opportunity knocked and I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Because this guy roughly goes for over $100 on his own and as part of the 2-pack that he came with. I think it was like the Transmetal Tarantulas, if I remember right. So anyway, just the ability to get this guy for way under that, I was definitely going to take it. And when you look at his robot mode, he's very similar, if not identical, to his American releases. The only part that would obviously be different is the little bit of the rose gold that's peeking there around his sides. The American guys have their blues and like aquas. So in robot mode, it's not really a tremendous amount of difference. If you really want to appreciate it, you have to leave him in beast mode. But overall, I'm just so happy to have this guy. And no, he does not come with 2 horns. That came from a scrap Rhinox, but I was like, you know what, I'll include it because if you guys don't know, in the fiction, these are actually treated as more like handguns in addition to being like hand blade weapons, because the horn is treated as a clip, whereas the other part of the gun is obviously the firing mechanism. So I'm like, you know what, that's kind of cool that retroactively it's kind of been applied to all Rhinoxes. It started with the Armada one, but I'm like, hey, you know what, the original boy, if he had become a Transmetal, he would totally need that. Something to replace the machine guns of doom, right? And then coming in at number 7 is our guy here, the Studio Series Generation 1 Megatron. Now the reason that Megs lands at this point on the list is because of 2 factors that occurred on our list last year, being the number 2 and number 1 pick. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically, if you remember, the number 2 pick last year was the Generation 1 Megatron. So for me, I personally feel that my need for a gun Megatron has been fulfilled. So when they said that this guy was going to be a tank, I was like, all right, like I have no problem with that. And like when I look at his tank mode, yeah, it's fine. It certainly has nothing on Armada Megatron, we'll put it that way, but I think it works. Now, when it comes to robot mode, that's where our number 1 pick from last year comes into play, because Optimus Prime, in both of his, nailed it. It is like 100% perfect, like no problems. In this Megatron, to its credit, everything except one thing on here is completely perfect. The fact that they got this out of that tank mode that we saw, that is impressive. I'm not going to knock them for that. The problem is they screwed up on one of the areas you probably should not have. And that is the fusion cannon. Why of all... Guys, this is his signature weapon. Why is this wrong? This is like giving Darth Vader a green lightsaber. You know it ain't right. And it's like, did you pull this from an animation error in the movie? Is that why it is this way? Because the proportions are all wrong on it. It should be longer on the front and shorter on the back. And I'm like, had they engineered it to allow it to, like, you know, maybe slide down a little bit, that would have been perfect. So with that being said, you know, okay, so you've messed up his most important iconic weapon, and his alt mode is nothing to write home about either. I was like, you know, Optimus, like I said, nailed it in every respect. It's just kind of sad that his arch enemy, the Studio Series, what should be the premier edition of Megatron, that's not a masterpiece, kind of drops the ball that bad. I'm like, well, I can't even put him in the top 5. I mean, he's sitting at number 7 for a reason. So, don't get me wrong, I love him, and he still made the top 10 best figures or most interesting ones of the year. And so, I mean, that is a credit to the fact that this guy is still very good. But again, there are guys that do what they're supposed to a lot better. For instance, our number 6 guy, which is none other than the R.I.D. Galvatron. Now, this dude has appeared before on this channel. If you guys saw the interesting summer pickups, this guy was on there as well. And at that point in his life, he was number 3 on that list, so you can see that due to some increased competition, he's slipped down through 3 slots on the list. So don't get me wrong though, because the thing that makes this guy so awesome is how crisp he is in white. A Galvatron that's white and black. I mean, this was the start of how Megatrons and Galvatrons started getting their color schemes mix matched, and it's all this guy's fault. He's the one that started it. And I dig the fact of the gold trim on this dude. I mean, you can look at like the gold trim around the head, the body, the wings back here. And then of course he's always like I don't know, I think that while the red weapon that he's got limits him, the way that he adapts it to his other modes kind of works. And the fact that this guy has 11 official modes, because after the show ended, Takara actually engineered a 11th mode, which was an ostrich mode, which, I mean, that's kind of silly for this guy, but, you know, hey, whatever. He turns into a hand also, so, I mean, is it really that much ridiculous? But overall, I dig this because I've had the Megatron for years, and now to see how much the Galvatron deco improved this mold. So again, if we compare this guy to the Studio Series Megatron, this dude is doing everything he's supposed to. He looks like the character he is. He turns into every mode that you see him turn into in the show. There is no deviation. The guy nails it 1-to-1, and yeah, I just enjoy him because of all the different things he can turn into. This guy right here is hitting it right out of the park. Alright guys, with that being said, we have actually reached the top 5 of this list. So, beginning with number 5 is none other than our boy LGO2 Optimus Primal. Now, if you guys remember on the summer list, there was actually 4 iterations of this mold. This one was not one of them. There was a guy that looks very similar to this guy, which was the Reborn Convoy, but he actually sports more of the gray color schemes that match the animation model. This guy right here is actually sporting all pure blacks. And the thing is I like the pure black color scheme on him a lot more than the animation gray. I feel that it just helps this figure like hit a lot harder. And so the deco is a little bit different, but one of the things that I totally love is that animation accurate head and how they picked out all the details. Oh, that is so sick. And then of course you've got the chest details that are way more accurate. On those old original molds, the figure's chest was sunken in. But you look at that plate that he has in the show, and that's like, I mean, it nails it. So this supersedes the Reborn Convoy. LGO2 over here, up until the Masterpiece, this was the best example of a Season 1 Optimus Primal that we had. So I'm really excited to have him in the collection again. He maintains all of the posability and all of the action features that this mold is known for. yeah, I'm definitely just, like I said, I'm very pleased now to have this guy back among the crew. And landing at number 4 is none other than the Haslab Omega Prime. Now, I know that there has been quite a bit of controversy surrounding this one. However, I can't take that as a factor into my Omega Prime. And while that is something that should not have been a deal on the level of Haslab, because I am judging where he lands on this list off of my personal experience, that doesn't negate any of you that had an issue with Optimus Prime. You are perfectly validated in how you feel. But for me personally, I feel that out of all the ones I've gotten this year, he deserves the number 4 spot. Because this is the focus of this mold, right? Is the big combiner robot. But obviously the other focus of this was improving the other components of this. You have the updates to Optimus Prime, minus the chest issues. It should have been perfect, that part of it. And also how you see what they did to update Ultra Magnus. The induction of a new member, being Blue Bolts. She doesn't do anything wrong. She's completely perfect, just like the Magnus portion. And then even including a small little deal like Cerebros. That was a little cheeky treat that I was kind of glad that they did. And so overall, I'm very glad that I was able to experience this guy, I think, in a way that he was intended. And I really enjoyed it. So for me personally, he lands at number 4. And then coming on at number 3 is the universe version of Razorclaw. Now for those of you that are wondering, this is not the Age of the Primes iteration. This is the original 2003 universe iteration. And this one has got a funny story, guys, because you guys have heard about my friend that, you know, we kind of help each other find like those ones that we're looking for, and we kind of like egg each other on, introducing each other to figures that we maybe hadn't thought about going into, but we were like, oh, well, maybe I should go ahead and, you know, get this guy and get all his pieces and stuff. We do that to each other all the time, basically. However, there is those rare times that we both are eyeballing the same figure. And there's a toy store that is in our area that had this Tigertron, well, it is Tigerhawk, but in his universe he's called Razorclaw. So anyway, this toy store had this Razorclaw out front in one of the display cases for like, I don't know how long, probably a year or two. Nobody ever bought it. It has everything with it. It has the 2 cannons here with the missiles. It has the wingtip missiles. Nothing is missing on this guy. It was in perfect condition. Only problem was how much they wanted for it. So anyway, eventually they moved him to the back room in a cabinet hidden out of sight. Well, my friend told me he was thinking about buying this one from that store. And at that time I was like, oh man, I'm like, because I was really thinking about getting him. So I went over there after work one day, and I couldn't, like I said, he was in a display case that he was like hidden out of sight. And so this dude, like, I went back there with the guy and we looked, and like he was just hiding right there. And so I told my friend, I said, I hope you're not too disappointed, because I ended up buying this guy. And he goes, well, hey, it's all right. He goes, it's probably a good thing you did, because I'm seriously eyeballing him. And trust me, when my friend sets his mind to something, he eventually sees it through. So the fact that he was just talking about buying Razorclaw, I was like, I gotta beat him to the punch. And hey, until it was bought, it was fair game for anyone. Even other people besides me and my friend. Anybody could have bought this well, I keep saying Tigerhawk, but it is Razorclaw. So anyway, this one will be kind of a cool point of reference, because even for a figure that is 20 plus years old, it holds up pretty well. Now, a lot of the gimmicks you would expect maybe aren't as on point as they used to be. For instance, there's one of these wings, I can't remember which. Yeah, that one. See, it should go ahead, and like this one over here, it should shoot up like that. But you can tell that the spring gimmick is a little bit wore out on this wing. But trust me, the missiles over here, they're still as sensitive as the day they came out of the box, apparently. So it's really just kind of cool to see this awesome of a mold. And like I said, whenever we do a review of the Age of the Primes Razorclaw next year, we'll go ahead and use him as a point of reference. But I just dig having the original because it helps me to appreciate it for what it is versus what the new Age of the Primes one is going for. And number 2 on our list could be no other than Armada Predacon. Now, for those of you that are in the know, this is the other Armada recolor of a Transmetal. And also, if you guys know me, you know that if I have a Megatron that came out during this year, or I can pick up a mold that is a Megatron, he's going to rank high on this list, more often than not taking the number 1 spot. But as you can tell, we're on number 2. And this Armada version of Predacon, if you see, he has Backtrack and Spiral on his sides there. Now, these are not the 2 minicons specifically that came with this guy, but they are the molds that they recolored to come with Armada Predacon. And the cheapest I saw each one of these minicons was like for 25 bucks. And I'm like, for 2 minicons, I'm not paying $50. That's ridiculous. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get the original versions of the mold, and that'll be good enough. Now, personally, I believe that Predacon actually works better with the Destruction team, considering, you know, he's a Decepticon, a giant T-Rex, and, I mean, it just makes more sense for him to go ahead and have the Chaos and Destruction. But one of the things that I dig about Predacon is the crazy colors this guy comes with. And you can see here on what will become his turbines, they did a little bit of a deco job, like the Minicon when he plugs in. It's all the energy that kind of just shoots out, kind of like lightning. And I mean, it's mirrored over here. And just, I mean, the greens and the grays and the little bit of the beige on the head and just the orange hits and the red touches. I mean, this thing is awesome. Now, he does go ahead and retain all the functionality of the Armada, or, well, actually the Transmetal Megatron. So if you want to go ahead and flip up his turbines, you can go ahead and do that. Also, he does have the little bit of the roller skates on his feet, which they're powered traction wheels, but whatever. We don't have to split hairs like we did on the Optimus Primal hoverboard thing. But aside from that, you can see that even where those little bits were covered up, because they didn't have to put vac metal on this guy, this gave them a crazy ability to have the deco in like all over this dude. And I totally dig that. So I also had to show you guys what he looks like in his robot mode, see how the color placement works there as well, especially with that Megatron head sculpt and everything. So I just dig how crazy this is and how different it is from its original iteration of Megatron. Reusing it as the Armada origin of all Predacons in that universe, that is really cool. And what's funny about this guy's fiction is that they wrote it as kind of a way of getting a dig at the Beast Machine's Megatron. And what I mean by that is that in his fiction, he leads a group of Cybertronians that are trying to integrate organic material with their Cybertronian biology. So it's supposed to be a techno-organic fusion, because according to Predacon, that's how he thinks that his race is going to evolve and become more powerful. Well, if you know anything about the Beast Machine's Megatron, that guy he's trying to purge all organic material, trying to keep the technological purity of Cybertron. And so the fact that there's a guy that shares his face that has the opposite goal, that's kind of amusing. So to go ahead and integrate the Minicon feature, what you'd have to do is fold his T-Rex arms towards his back, and then they just kind of sit there on his shoulder. Now you can go ahead and plug them into the turbine, but because of how loose it is, they just kind of sit back here and swing about. So I don't really like putting any on him in robot mode right there. And like I said, it's just mainly putting the guys on his shoulders, which, I mean, that's ridiculous, but I mean, it's a way that it works. So like I mentioned earlier, with it being a version of a Megatron mold, are you really surprised that he landed at number 2? And so guys, before we go ahead and get to our number 1 pick for the year, I want to go ahead and mention another honorable mention. And with that honorable mention, it is none other than our boy, Retro Cardback Seaspray. And I have been waiting for so long to get a new Seaspray. Now, for all of you that watched the review we did of the Seaspray, I had mentioned that I had grown up with the Generation 2 Seaspray, which basically had this exact same color scheme, except everywhere that it was blue on the original figure, they basically just vac metaled like a shiny blue. And even though this guy isn't doing that, like, it's still hitting every mark that I need it to. And the fact of how big this guy is, that's what really shocks me. I'm trying to think of a modern comparison here. I guess we'll just use Megatron here. You can see, look at how ginormous Seaspray is compared to Megatron. The dude comes up to about this guy's waist over here. And, I mean, he towers over other mini-bots, which is really surprising. But, I mean, just even down to, like, little small details, like the gun that the guy is using. That head sculpt. I mean, when I look at the original Seaspray figure, that's what I see is that head. It's just here now in higher definition. I mean, basically the whole figure is. And I know that probably at some point they'll release a more cartoon accurate one. But again, for me, this retro cardback Seaspray was the perfect one. And I just had to put him on there as an honorable mention because I do have, like I said, I do have a connection to the G2 Seaspray, and, you know, this guy is banking on pure nostalgia. I'm not going to deny it. And our number one pick could be none other than the variant edition of Transmetal Optimus Primal. And of course, if Megatron is my number 2 pick, Optimus Primal is my number 1 pick. He's my number 1 favorite figure of all time. This is one of my favorite iterations he had during the Beast Wars. So the reason that this guy is a variant is when they did the initial run of the Transmetal Optimus Primals, they accidentally put the purple vac metal that was supposed to go on the Transmetal Megatron, they applied it to the Optimus Primals. And then they they basically swapped them. There are versions of Megatron out there with the blue vac metal. Of course, I'm not going to go after that one because because it's a Hasbro version, if I touch it, it's just going to crumble into dust. So I'm very happy with this guy. But when you stack him up against a later run iteration that has the proper blue coloring, you can see the difference clear as day, especially whether he's in beast mode or hoverboard mode. So basically when you get to robot mode like this, there's not really any differences. Like I said, the only way you can really tell it is by the kneecaps. Basically the weapons are the same as the stock one. You just have the 2 maces and the gun. However, with that being said, guys, he is my number 1, and I mean, I hope you guys really enjoyed the rest of the figures that we've looked at. Other than that, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the look at all of these crazy guys. Like I said, they all stood out for one reason or another, and they're my top 10, technically 12 picks of the year. If you guys are wondering why there was no Age of the Prime figures in this video, that's actually because we're going to be doing the top 10 Age of the Primes video next week. I'm going to try to upload it either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, depending on how long it'll take to edit that. But anyway, I really was happy to be able to kind of share this with you guys. One thing that I forgot to show off with Omega Prime was the crazy Matrix blade. This thing is still an insane accessory that I only ever used once in the show, but I love the fact that we actually have this. So I just forgot to show that off. Well, in order not to drag it out, everybody, until next time, we'll see you in another review.